Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the October, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, the October 12th edition of Black Professionals Month. And we are excited all the way from Johannesburg, South Africa. We have our advisory board member and featured guest to be with us today. You guys fired up? Are you ready? Well, you should be, because we are now going to be hearing from Busisiwe Swatyo. Oh gosh, I messed it up. Oh my gosh, I tried.
You started us on a high note. That's nice.
So you can tell Denise you didn't have to wait until tomorrow.
Yeah, Shadwayo.
So Busi Shatwayo. So Busisiwe Shatwayo. I think I got it right that time. All right. She is an executive coach and founder of Black Women in the Workplace, a company aimed at increasing the representation of Black women leaders in the workplace through online coaching programs, events, and consulting with corporations to create a pipeline of Black women leaders and cultures that allow diversity to thrive. She manages the Business Innovation and Technology Department at the AFDA JHB campus. And she is also a supervisor for the MBA Entrepreneurship Program at the Gibbs Business School, an advisory board member for the Black Professionals Month. Thank you, Busi. And she is an established governance, risk, and compliance specialist who has implemented a number of RM strategy and system implementations and project risk management for government county-wide IT programs. Woo! Man, if you work as hard as it is to read about all the stuff that you do, Busi, you're probably really tired. So I have been impressed. We are so happy to have you here all the way from Joburg. And I was just there 3 years ago celebrating a birthday with my two daughters. So, I had a wonderful time, and I definitely recommend anybody get an opportunity to go back and visit. As a matter of fact, we went to Nelson Mandela's home. And my hometown is Louisville, Kentucky. And while we were there, we saw a plaque on his wall in his home where they have the tours that was from the Kentucky State University, which is Kentucky's historically Black college. And he had received an honorary doctorate from Kentucky State. So, we were, popping collars and blowing up our chests, seeing our, home state university represented all the way across the world in Nelson Mandela's home. So it was definitely a moment of pride, and really excited. I am going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to ask Busi to go ahead and to let her bring up her screen. And the next voice that you hear will be Busisiwe. And she is going to talk to us about what I just mentioned about Black women in the workplace, how we all overcome barriers for leadership for Black women, and sometimes not even just Black women, but Black men too, because, it's not as easy for us as we would like for it to be. So I am done speaking, Busi. The floor is yours, and we're excited to hear from you. Thank you for being here.
Wow, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone who's here. I'm very excited about this, and I'm also very excited about Black Professionals Week, because I think it's an amazing initiative. I love the fact that as a people, we are doing things for ourselves and we are celebrating ourselves. I do think that every generation has a challenge and has a mission. And this is ours. We might not be in the streets all the time protesting, but in the places that we're in, we are called upon to take on the baton for those who came before us and take it forward. And this is how we're doing it. People are doing it in different ways, and we are doing it from the places that we have been put in. So yeah, so barriers against the advancement of Black women into leadership positions. When you thought of this topic, what did you think? So I just want to hear what popped into your mind. Anyone? What popped into your mind? What did you think about? Are there any barriers that you're thinking about? Did you think, why just women? Any thought?
When I saw it, hi, my name is Debbie. When I saw it, my first thought was, it just led me back an experience I had where I was actually fired, and I think it was politics. So when I saw the topic, I was like, I want to hear some more.
Oh, that's great. Anyone else? Lisa.
Zoe. Oh, go ahead, Lisa.
Hi, thank you, Zoe. So one of the things that I've noticed and in conversations, even in a corporate space, is this we can be in situations and we can decide that for our own well-being, it's best that we actually step away. Like we remove ourselves from environments that are not conducive to our well-being, etc. But that also impacts our ability to sort of climb and continue on. So
Thanks, Lisa. Was there somebody else? Zoe.
Yes, Zoe. Yeah, sorry. I was just going to say my first reaction was an awareness that we do need to have an explicit conversation about us, because we have that intersectional of not only are we women, but now we are Black women. So it's not, we're not another color, another race. It's the double-edged sword. So thinking back to my corporate career, and then I was pausing because I said, well, I'm an entrepreneur now. And I said, no, I'm still seeing it. So
Yeah.
I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you, Lisa and Debbie. I love that you shared your experiences, and especially around wanting to leave, you know, or leaving, or just going through something that you sometimes don't understand. And the danger so much is around internalizing it. So maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not articulate enough. You know, maybe I'm not trying too hard. And when we have these conversations and explicitly explain the things that we go through, that helps us to not internalize things that have nothing to do with us. When we realize that actually this is what we're facing because of who we are, not necessarily because of what we've done or not done, even though it doesn't mean that we become victims and we do nothing and we just cry and shout about it. We can look for solutions and strategies, but it's very important that the blame sits where it's supposed to be, and it's not necessarily with what we are not doing or what we are doing. Okay, so I like what Zoe talked about, and exactly what Hart said. Black men go through these. So why Black women? Why not just Black people? And why not just women? And Zoe explained it very well when she talked about the intersection, because you are Black, so you face, as a Black woman, you face the discrimination or the bias because you are Black. Then you face the discrimination and the bias because you're a woman. And Kimberly Crenshaw, who came up with the word intersection, was explaining that because of going through number of oppressions, the experience then becomes different. It's not just compounded, it becomes a unique experience because of those intersections. And we know it's not just gender, it's not just race. For some people who are not heterosexual, it's sexuality, you know, for people, and a lot of us deal with a lot of class issues as well. And most of the time we are the first in the family, and not many of the family members are successful, and all of that is sitting on us. So we might be having one foot in the middle class and another in another class because of the challenges that we face. Okay, love that. So I think Denise and Hutch also talked about the stats in the US, and I'm going to talk about the stats in South Africa. And it's so interesting how even though the Black woman's experience is not the same everywhere, it's not identical to everyone, it's very similar. which is very interesting. I read a book called Black Women Leadership. I remember the name, but the lady was researching Black women in Britain and Black women in South Africa, Black women in leadership in Britain and in South Africa, and the experience is similar. And then you read and a lot of literature on Black women is written by American women, and you read, and I'm sitting in South Africa and I'm having the same experiences. So interesting. So I'm just going to give you the numbers, and then we can just quickly have a discussion of that. So the EAP, so if you look on your right-hand side, I don't know if it's also your right-hand side, there's a word called EAP. So it's called, it stands for economically active population. So in South Africa, a number of legislations have been created to assist the transformation of the workplace to be more representative of the demographics. In South Africa, Black people are 80% of the population. And in South Africa, Black people and colored people are demographically are not put in the same demographic. So we have Black people, we have colored people, we have Indians, maybe, and Asians, and then white people. So when we say 80%, we're actually not even including coloreds, which in America would be Black people, and women of colors, which would be Indians and Asians. So if you calculate all that, we have over 90% of the country. But and you can see that, and then the economically active population are people who are looking for jobs. So it's people who are working or people who are looking for jobs. So it's not everyone, but it's people who are working and are looking for jobs. So that is the demographic, the population that is used to calculate where the stats are. So the organization that does that is the Commission for Gender Equity, Commission for Employment Equity, and they issue this report every year. And the interesting thing is that there's not much change. So if you look at the stats from 2018 to 2020 on representation, there's just 1% change throughout the 3 years. But I'm going to explain the numbers quickly. So this on your left-hand side is top leadership representation. I just took Black women, Black men, white women. So Black women are 5% of the top management in South Africa, and they are 36%. So if you go back to the right, they are 35.6% of the population. So 35.6% of the population is only has 5% representation in top leadership. Black men are about 43% or 44% of the population, and they make up about 10% of the population. So they're not doing better. They're not doing much better than Black women, but if you calculate, they're doing a little bit better than Black women, and that is the representation of intersection. So they do better because they are men than Black women, but not that much better as well. So they're double that. They double the representation of Black women, whereas they are just 8% higher than Black women in terms of EAP. And then white men are 51.6%, and white women are 13.1%, and white women are they're 3.9% of the population. So they're just 4% of the economically active population, and they are represented at 13% of top leadership. White men are 5% of the population, and they're represented at 51% of top leadership. And then here in the middle, I'm just looking at representation in the different management levels and for Black women. And if you look at that, the lower we go, the higher the representation of Black women. The higher you go, the more they fall along the wayside. And those are the issues that we are going to think about. We are going to be talking about the reasons. So any reflection on these numbers? Anyone want to reflect quickly on this?
I was just going to add, it's Zoe, it doesn't look far off from our numbers.
Yeah, interesting. And the interesting thing is that women, there are more women in Africa, in South Africa, than there are in America. In America, you looked at as the minority, we are the majority. And there have been so many laws created to help facilitate this, and it hasn't changed. Hutch spoke about Mandela, and his legacy currently is being questioned by a lot of people because of the fact that 27 years later, we still find ourselves struggling with these issues, and we still find a lot of Black people still unemployed. We still find these issues in the workplace. So there is a big discussion around whether negotiations done properly, did we take political power and not looked enough at economic power? So that's where we are in South Africa currently. Very interesting. So why should this problem be solved? Why is it important that this problem be solved? Any thoughts? Is it enough that it's not fair? What is the imperative for this problem to be solved?
I can speak quickly on it. For me, it's several things. Number one, it's not reflective of the population, which means it's not reflective of our customers. When you're working in different organizations, it's also, as far as our families are concerned, if so many women are the leads or the head of a family, then you're leaving an entire population of families at a disadvantage. So I will stop there.
Mine is that there's a system issue. It's not just the piece that it's not fair, because it's not about being fair. It's about being at the table. And when you are not at the table, that means that you're not represented. When you're not represented, that means that there's a deeper issue. So it's about the system is created to ensure that it is set up the way it's set up. So it's how do we shift or transform the system so that we can move forward and cause for the opportunity to be more equal. So that would be my statement.
Yeah, I love it. I think you guys saw my presentation. Better decision. Excuse me.
I'd like to add, there was a study done, I want to say by Capital One here. And basically what it talked about was that the US economy was losing trillions of dollars by virtue of racial injustice. And pretty much the focus is that if you are, sidelining, if you will, people who are able to contribute, to society and to the economy, then you're losing what they contribute, Exactly. And I think companies are doing themselves a disfavor in terms of their ability to be competitive and progressive as it relates to understanding markets and having the diversity of inclusion of a variety of thoughts and so on and so forth. I think, while there's that moral imperative, there's also the business imperative that, that is also being lost by not having more people who are definitely the consumers more involved in understanding how to come up with the right products and services and how you communicate those things in the marketplace.
Yeah, you said it. You guys said all of it. That's the value proposition of having more Black people and Black women in the table. There's a financial performance and diversity. There's a bottom line effect. Actually, research shows that when you have more diversity in leadership, the numbers show. and also someone spoke about better decision making, that when there are more voices on the table, the decisions are more thought of and holistic. There's this book called Invisible Woman. Gosh, forgot, I'll check who the author is. And she talks about design issues that are not for women because the women were not on the table when those discussions were done. So she talks about things like streets, you know, how the pavement is small because men usually walk alone, but because women are usually responsible for taking care of kids, so they will push in strollers, or taking care of the elderly and the disabled, so they'll be pushing them around. If they were on the table when those discussions were done, they would have thought about how wide pavements should be. You know, even medication, some medication just tested on men, seat belts. They even talk about, you know, where buses stop in terms of safety for women. Do they stop where there are lights? Even, you know, where toilets are, things like those. The fact that there are not enough people on the table when those discussions are made impact on the decisions that are made. In South Africa, we've been having, I think even in the US, we've been having that, where companies issue advertisements that are so sensitive. And there was a big issue with clicks in South Africa, where there was a lot of protest because of advertisement that showed a lot of racism undertones. But if there were more people on the table, if there were Black people on the table, when those discussions were made, those mistakes would not have been made. And then the last one is, the second last one is what you spoke about, Zoe, about a lot of women are heading households. We know we have a problem with marriages and relationships as a people, as Black people. Marriage is a difficult thing, and it's historic, and there are historical reasons, which we won't get into that, which are part of the fact that we come from a racial segregated background history. So a lot of you know, women are raising children. In South Africa, they're saying that over 69% of children in birth certificate, the father's whereabouts are known. Over 69% of Black kids, of children actually. So because we're 80% of the country, yeah. So Black women are leading those, and because of our history, we talk about Black tax. Black women are responsible not just for their children, but for extended families, being the first. And Barbara Smith, she's also an American feminist, who says, until a Black woman is free, no one is free, because of the intersectional issues. So if a woman and a Black person are free, then Blacks are free and women are free. So because of that intersection, when Black women have been made free, that means all the different types of segregations have been solved. So now we're going to quickly go into what are the internal barriers that affect Black women. And when I say internal barriers, I'm talking about what they bring to the workplace. So first, it's conditioning, so gendering. When we talk about it, there is a book by Dr. Professor Pumla Gola, I think, but forgot her name now, in South Africa. She writes a book. She wrote a book called Fear Factory. It's very much around rape and women, but she talks about the issue of gendering. You know that there are a lot of writers who've written about the issue of gendering. That sex is natural, but the gender is created. You define what a certain gender should act. So even in the home, how we are raised, you know, girls must be protected. You can be running around, you can come back late, you're a girl child, and that shapes how you think, how you feel. And she speaks about a fear there is a fear that is created that goes with the gender. So when you are a woman, when you're a girl child, you need to be afraid, you need to be protected, you need to be away from the public sphere because it's not safe for you. And the experiences that we go through actually then creates that cycle of confirmation, you know. And the church, I mean, we talk about the church, we have a complex relationship with the church, and I'm interested to hear what you guys would say about that. So in the church, we find our value, find our worth. Jesus loves us unconditionally. We're worth because he died for us. And it's this place where we are together and taking care of each other as a community. But Black women also find that this is a place that also defines them in a certain way that is at most time disempowering. And then there's also the education, you know, girls are expected to do certain courses, girls are expected to do certain things at school. So how our education is shaped to shape us, and even around race, how education for Black people has been designed and resources not provided to ensure that we don't get a good quality of education, and how that shapes us. Then we talk about trauma, childhood, gender-based violence trauma, and how trauma shapes you in terms of safety, in terms of knowing, taking space, and all of those things are what is required to be, you know, to be seen as strong and confident. How trauma can impact how we see ourselves and how we show up. And then, sorry, it's supposed to be socioeconomic issues. So being raised from poverty, scarcity mentality, and lack of opportunities that come from the fact that you've been raised in poverty, or you went to certain schools. And we talk about historical oppression, how we often sometimes feel around white people. You know, this Eurocentric view that is sold everywhere, that the world is interpreted as if the white is universal. So how we see the world, how the world is interpreted from a white point of view. How we are taught white supremacy, that white is better. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the doll experience where the kids, where Black kids were given dolls and were asked which one was better, you know, and they were still kids, but they still said the white is better and the Black is bad, and that the legacy of colonization and slavery, and even some ancestral trauma that sits in our DNA that we inherit, you know, the fear, the trauma, the oppression that we even inherit, even what we have not necessarily experienced. And then the first and only issue, lack of role models. You know, I've looked at a lot of, I'm so sorry about the typos, I hate typos. I've looked at a lot of the women who have really made it big. You find that most of the time they come from two-parent homes, or who've made it big fast. You find that they come from two-parent home, or they come from homes where they're professionals. So there is that advantage, not that people who don't come from those homes don't make it, but that helps because you already have role models. When you're the first in university, you're first in this world that is very white oriented. I mean, let's talk about it. The corporate world comes from a culture that is very Western and very white. And the impact of our relationships as women, so power and our relationships at home as wives, as girlfriends, as children, as siblings, even the issues around survivor's guilt, you know, scarcity and the feeling that I'm losing my community. The better I go, the higher I go, I lose community. I have to prove to people that I don't think I'm better. All of that is a mentality, forms a mental impact on Black women at work and how they show up. So any thoughts? Any reflection?
Lucy, we've got about 13
yes.
minutes, so
13 minutes left, yeah.
just give you a little update there. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just going to add it. You could just be speaking. I'm in Canada, but you could just be speaking about North America. It's sad that it's the same.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, and we look at you and we think first world country, and you look at us and you think Africa, they're Africans in Africa, you know, you must not feel, you probably don't feel like a Black person in Africa because there's so many Black people, but actually we do. We still feel very much like visitors, you know, we still feel very much like outsiders. And I don't know if there's anyone, especially around the church and education, I don't know if anyone wants to reflect on that. Okay.
I would like to say something. When it comes to all of that, do you think it's part of the separatists, you know, separating versus us collaborating and coming together? Because you can be in the minority, I mean, in the majority, have the majority.
Yeah.
However, that doesn't mean that you have the power or the ability to impact change at a deeper level. So it's not about the numbers, it's about, it may be connected to the fact that we're not coming together as one, regardless to what country we're in. It seems like the issue is systemic and is not based on location. What do you, I mean, you know, does that make sense?
It does. It's very interesting because Trevor Noah, I'm sure you know him, you guys have adopted him in his book. You adopted him as your son, but in his book he talks about how we as a people congregate around suffering. And when one becomes successful, we sabotage that or we exclude them. You know, in our language, there's this saying that you think you're white. You know, I think you also say it. You're uppity. You know. He talks about an experience where they were friends and in the township, and there would be, you know, and they were just hanging around, making music, selling, you know, copies of illegal copies of music, just going through that township after that experience after finishing matric. And one of their friends got a job, and they would tease him so much about that he has a job and whatever, that he left his job to come and have the, you know, the camaraderie of his friends. So that whole congregating around suffering, and when someone becomes successful, it's almost like we become, I don't know, angry at them, or we separate from them. And then there's also the issue of scarcity, that there's also this excitement around being the first Black woman and being the only Black woman, and feeling like if other people come in, I lose my being special. And also you also get it with white people where they say, oh, you're not like them, you know, you speak so well. So we sometimes then get excited about being different and special and unique, you know. So yeah, but I think we're changing. I've seen a lot of collaboration that is happening right now. Then we're going to talk about external. So this presentation is about an overview, and then in the next presentation, we're really going to go into the internal, how it shows up, and some strategies of what we can do. And then in the last presentation, I'm going to go into these externals and some strategies we can look at. But then we look at bias, and I mean, Lean In speaks very well around bias. There's a lot of research in the Lean In. I think they used McKinsey and Bain to do the research, the women in the workplace research every year. And for the past 2 years, they've been looking at Black women. So there's very great research there that you can check out. And they talk about the different forms of biases. You know, there's unconscious bias that we all have. And there is this implicit association test. And if you can search it and do it, it's a very interesting test. It tests our bias around women. It shows that a lot of people, apparently 75% of participants who've done the test show a preference of white people over Black people, and 76% of people who have taken the test show associate careers with men. I did it 3 days ago, and I was slightly, I showed a slight association of career with men. So it shows the you know, the how the conditioning is so ingrained that even though I speak about these issues all the time, I still show an association of careers with men. So that's unconscious bias. There's performance bias. So you know, that underestimation of women's abilities to do the work. So and it talks about that why so that men, 60% of men would I think Dennis, you spoke about it in your presentation, that men would apply for a position if they meet 60% of the criteria, but women usually women's competence is not assumed. You're actually assumed to not be competent, so you need to prove. So the fact that women are not applying is because part of it is that they know that they would not be considered as competent because their competence is assumed to be less than. And then attribution bias is similar to competence, to performance bias, and that we value the participation or the acts of men than we do of women. So when women do well, we look down at that accomplishment, and when men do well, we really appreciate that. And as someone who manages people, I almost sometimes look at that and say, am I angry at her, or am I underestimating what she's doing because she's a woman? You know, am I harder on her because I expect more on her because she's a woman? Am I less hard on this one because he's a man? So some of these things are so ingrained in us that we have to be aware even when we are leaders, because actually the implicit bias tests show that the results are the same, even if it's Black people who are taking it. They show, for example, they show a preference for white women, white people. And then there's a likability bias. So when women are likable, they are considered incompetent. When they're not likable, they are considered bossy or aggressive. And Black women, that's even more, because there's that angry Black woman archetype. So you're considered even more aggressive. And as a woman, if you're not liked, you are probably not going to be promoted, because they say, they make an example that if you had a man and a woman, and both of them had the same qualifications and experience and abilities, and there's this woman who's not likable, which one would you choose? And most people would choose the man. So likability is important, but women find themselves in that double bind. You know about maternal, when you have a child, people assume you, or when you're pregnant, people assume that you won't be at work, you'll be, you know, you're still gonna take 4 months. I don't know how many months is it for you, maternity leave, and you won't be here. And therefore there's that issue of, I don't want to hire young people, they're going to get pregnant and leave work and not be here. So that bias around being a mother. And the last one is affinity bias. I don't think I put it here. Yeah, affinity bias is we hire people who look like us. And because a lot of people in powerful positions are white and straight, they probably would hire people like them. And that's why we needed to get more Black women or Black people in leadership positions, because we'll hire people like us and we'll hopefully make more room. And then there's the stereotype: strong Black woman, angry Black woman. I mean, who's that? Michelle has seen a lot of that, being called Obama's baby mama. mean, how disrespectful is that? And then there's the mommy. I mean, I think you know the mommy, the Black woman who works for white people and loves it. And now it's showing up in the workplace where you're expected to just work hard because, you know, given all the work, because, you know, you love your work and you're amazing and you just work so hard. And then there's the Jezebel where sexuality, being sexual, sexuality attributed to Black women. So they're assumed to be sexually, forgot what the word now. But so that even when they're raped or the sexual harassment, they're even considered sometimes unrapeable, you know, or what were you wearing? What all women face, but Black women in particular. So yeah, that will be that. Any other reflections? I think we left with 2 minutes. 2 minutes to just take any reflections and questions.
Yeah, hi, this is Pauline. This is such invaluable information. And, you know, whenever I hear about barriers, right, and the information that you shared was really great. One of the things that it takes me back to, it comes down to sort of, you know, particularly for Black women, right? It's around racial and gender equality. And when you talk about equality, it's a human rights matter. It doesn't, you know, so when we put the business constructs around it, that's fine. But at the end of the day, Black women, this is a human rights matter, right? This is what we deserve and should get. But also when you look at it from that perspective, then we can get at, which is what Johnny had referenced, those systemic issues, right? Then it's not an issue around why do we need to tear down the system, right? And then it makes it easier to get at the personal level, which is around the biases. So that's a whole nother conversation, I think. That's sort of my takeaway. And then just to understand that these barriers start when we're young girls. And so in our capacity as Black women, you know, it doesn't matter if we are able to mentor 1 or 1,000, we have to make certain that we're pouring into them, you know, bolstering them to be able to deal with the mindset barriers as well as the external barriers. So that was just my thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Pauline. Love it. Johnny, you're smiling there. I think we left it.
I'm loving what Pauline said. I'm just in agreement. This was amazing. Thank you so much, Lucy. So I really appreciate this, to know that it's not just here, that it's really everywhere. And as I hear Zoe say, it's in Canada as well. So it's about us all coming together and breaking the barriers of location to get to the heart, the mind, and the transformation of this matter. So thank you, because you're elevating that. Thank you.
Thank you. Isn't that the gift that COVID-19 has given us as well? Access to each other. So yeah, that's amazing. I don't know if anyone wants to still reflect 1 more minute.
I was just going to add in that I don't remember sharing or talking about all of our struggles collectively ever. And I was in corporate for 20 years. I was in finance, but I think it's so refreshing. And I think this is what we need in order to bring us together, because I was on other conversations. It doesn't even matter what industry. We're all experiencing this, but we don't know because we haven't been encouraged to communicate our pain. We've been told to shut up and just do, right? And that, of course, that goes back to the history of colonization and everything else. But I think this is fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah, so the biggest thing is that we internalize it. You think it's just me, you know, I'm not doing enough. But when we talk about it, you realize I'm not crazy, you know? Yeah. Thanks, Hutch. Over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Boosie. This has been wonderful. And I think that part of what we're understanding is that, you know, as much as we may be miles and miles and miles apart from one another, that we have a lot of shared experiences. And I know that you're coming back for a couple of more weeks. And so we're going to have a chance to also talk about not only looking at the, you know, the situation and understand where we are, but also what we can do to improve the situation, and because I know that's what you're doing. Also, based on the last comment about this opportunity to share, Black Professionals Month, is a party, so to speak, but the after party is at the ICABA World, community, where we keep this going, guys, and I can't really emphasize that, too much. This is not a point in time and we're just going to sing Kumbaya and then go away and just say, hey, we had a good experience. No, this is the beginning of a journey where we begin to grow our trusted online community for Black professionals and entrepreneurs worldwide. And it's up to you, because I will tell you, I've done my part. So I've been 12 years building a platform, working to create Black Professionals Month. We've got over 60 events, 55 phenomenal speakers. And so, when we say that, who's doing what, well, I can say right now, and I don't say it from an egotistical standpoint, I can say I've done my part, okay? And I'm just looking for you to just tap in, join the ICABA World community, keep this going. We have our own ability to work together, share our talent, share our resources, build collaborations. We can do anything that we want to do when we work together. We have the talent. And that's why we've got a sister here from Johannesburg, South Africa, meeting with us, folks from Canada here as a part of this. This is a new day, folks, and no one can hold us back but us. And so we need to turn toward each other. We don't have to sing Kumbaya. We don't always have that same hairstyle. All we have to understand is that we've got a shared history, we've got shared objectives, and we work toward those things, And so I'm getting off the soapbox, but this is not supposed to stop today. This is supposed to continue to go, and it doesn't stop October 31st. And I want to share with you real quickly, we've got some really great, I've added today and last night about another 25 different speakers and events for the next, almost 2.5, 3 weeks that we have left. So I'm going to share my screen in case you haven't seen, and also that you'll know where to go look on the website. So if you come to our website, one of the things we're kind of proud about and excited about is that we're getting noticed. So as you can see here, we've had articles in Essence and Fox Soul and CBS and NBC and so on and so forth. So there are things that are going on. There's also something new that you're going to start seeing in social media. We're celebrating Black professional excellence with these different showcase cards that you're going to see coming out. They're focused on individuals, like you just saw with Jonetta Cole, organizations like the Thurgood Marshall Fund, and then also milestone achievements such as the establishment of the Bethune-Cookman University by Mary McLeod Bethune. So, we are saying that we believe in ourselves, that we value ourselves, that we're going to promote ourselves, but we can't do it by ourselves. We really need you to activate. We need for you to lean in. We need for you to share, bring somebody back with you. We say sometimes to folks who say they can't find us to hire us. Well, I tell you what, we can't say that we don't have anything if when we have something, we don't participate. So, and let me show you where you can participate. There's a lot of great things going on over the next several weeks. And so if you go here, you can click on the month view to see everything, month at a glance, if you will, that's happening. So tomorrow we've got Dr. Reggie Lewis talking about plant conscious living with a sophisticated twist. We've got an estate planning attorney who's talking about generational wealth. We've got Dr. Daz, navigating your career as a young professional, and then Dr. Dennis Kimbrough with Think and Grow Rich. So there's a lot of stuff here. We got a Rear Admiral coming in to talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity in the sea services. We're going to talk about traveling the world again. There's a lot of great stuff coming up, career, business, lifestyle, and you've got a full agenda, in the following week. And then our last week, we're going to close out really strong with a bunch of events. So if you haven't found anything that going forward that maybe you thought that you didn't know was there, come back to the website and take a look. Also, I mentioned to you that I have included in the chat a link for you to join the ICABA World community. It's free for you to join, to be a part of what we have. We got mastermind groups, we have career centers to find jobs, we got business centers. There's a lot of things that we can do. But having said all of that, I want to just say thank you so much to Boosie. When they say when the call comes out and you answer, then you've got to really appreciate folks who step up to make things happen. So Boosie, thank you so much We are honored to have you with us, and I'm gonna let you have the last word, and then we're gonna shut it out. We're gonna close it down, and we'll shut it down.
Thank you very much, Haj, and thank you very much for everyone who was here and how supportive you were. Yeah, I do agree that we all have a role to play, and this is amazing. This is a start of great things, and we really are the ones we've been waiting for. We really are the ones we need. I mean, we are enough to create our own communities and even our own enterprises and just work with each other and they'll join us on the way, you know? So yeah, I'm very excited with the work that is happening here. I wanted to ask the question, because sometimes we're busy and we can't come to the presentations. Will they be on ICABA? Because I saw Denise's is on Facebook.
Yes, right. We're starting to post them up there. You know, we've had such phenomenal response to speakers. I sent out a call to probably about 80 speakers, expecting about 35% of them to respond. Instead, 85% responded.
Wow.
And Johnny's our speaker coordinator, so I've been working her to death. Matter of fact, she gave me my own ring.
It's amazing. Amazing.
She told me so she know what I'm calling, but you know, guys, I'm thinking she's like, okay, as much. I'm not answering this one. No, I'm just kidding. But now that we've kind of gotten past getting all of the speakers processed and up and out, there are a couple things that we're going to really turn our focus on. That is, one, getting all of our videos from the different events up. We've already started putting them there. So go to the ICABA World Community, and we have a Black Professionals Month mastermind group. So just sign up there. It's coming. Okay. And so definitely go there and get involved. And the thing that I'll leave you guys with, you know, when things go wrong and we feel like we can't take it anymore, you know, we get activated, you know, after we've been agitated. But, you know, we have got to get activated, you know, by intention, not when we're being reactionary, but when we are being proactive. You know, and so if we do some things proactively, we may not have to worry about being reactive. You know, we don't need somebody else to make things happen for us. We can do it ourselves. We got beautiful, intelligent, resourceful Black folks all over the world. We just got to grow and build this. And that's what ICABA is here for. That's what Black Professionals Month is here for, to bring us together so that we can connect, collaborate, and build a trusted community. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening to me. I'll get off my soapbox. Boosie, thank you, sweetheart. We'll see you next week. And everybody have a blessed day.